Faizon Brandon is getting some love from national analysts. The Elite 11 quarterback camp is going to spotlight the nation's top high school quarterbacks. And Tom Luginbill of ESPN ranked the 10 best quarterbacks committed attending the event later this month. Number 1 on the list was Faizon Brandon. That's right. Tennessee's 2026 quarterback commitment, Faizon Brandon, was number 1 on the list of quarterbacks attending the Elite 11 camp in a few weeks, which is actually a week out, excuse me. Here's what Tom Luginbill wrote. Tennessee's scheme is plug-and-play friendly and fits Brandon's big arm and sneaky mobility. There's a clear trend emerging in Knoxville when it comes to quarterback traits in terms of stature, athleticism, and arm strength. Brandon checks all 3 boxes. He's very similar to former Vols standout Hendon Hooker and is further along developmentally than Hooker was at Brandon's age. Though not quite as polished as Nico Iamaleava coming out of high school, Brandon throws a great deep ball, which Tennessee coach Josh Heupel requires from all his quarterbacks. By the time he arrives on campus, it's likely at least one quarterback currently on the Tennessee roster will have to hit the transfer portal. More is going to come on Faizon Brandon that we're going to discuss. But first, think about what he just said. Brandon is developmentally further along than Hooker was at the same age. That's a really, really high bar to shoot for. But at the same time, it also doesn't mean much. Hendon Hooker wasn't even Josh Heupel's first prospect to start at Tennessee. Now, that's on Josh Heupel. He should have known Hooker was better than Milton. But Hooker was a 4-star. Brandon was a 5-star. Hooker went to play for Virginia Tech and Justin Fuente. Hendon Hooker blossomed as a senior, and also Hendon Hooker, it was his intangibles that got Hendon Hooker over the line. Faizon Brandon basically should be better than Hendon Hooker coming out of high school. That's like saying, that's like saying this draft prospect is better than Tom Brady as a draft prospect. Well, okay, Tom Brady wasn't a good draft prospect. He was a 6th-round pick. That's a dumb comparison. I got to say, comparing to Hendon Hooker developmentally that doesn't really say much. Because Hooker, what got him across the finish line was his intangibles. Now, let's look at Faizon Brandon's highlights. And I'm going to share a couple with you because this is the big story. Faizon Brandon is generating some highlights and people are falling in love with it. So this is Billy Tucker of the UC Report, 1 week from the Elite 11 finals getting underway, and he's showing a clip of Faizon Brandon. We're going to show this right here. This is Faizon Brandon making some throws. The most. He's got quick feet, much quicker feet than Nico Iamaleava did. Okay, that's actually a really big deal. He's got much, much quicker feet. Now, the out routes and the quick zips and things like that are things Nico Iamaleava didn't do as well. So that's good that they're showing that. Again, it's easy to do a lot of this when you're playing against air. But you can look at the quick feet and you can see what he's doing in the pocket. They're showing a lot more zip for him in a lot of these short passes and these out routes. And that's kind of a big deal. Now, there is a deep ball for you. Again, easy throw to make, doesn't count. I don't really care about the throws against air, but that does stand out a little bit in that he was able to move quickly in the pocket. Now, here's Steve Wiltfong showing a clip from Faizon Brandon right here. And you guys can take a look at this. Just there you go. See, look at him moving, look at him moving, look at him moving. And then there's the deep ball that everybody wanted to see. So now I got burned with my Nico takes that he was created in a lab to run Josh Heupel's system. I was wrong. I've owned that I was wrong. He didn't have the mobility that he needed. I still think he would have been great in the system developing, but I'm not good because of how burdened I got. I can't jump into the Faizon Brandon train, but he looked really, really good on those with his feet right there. And he does have more zip when he throws it than Nico. Nico probably throws a better deep ball, but if that difference is marginal, then I think you could see Faizon Brandon being better. Some people on Twitter have already said he's already better than Nico. And now we're hearing he's better developmentally than Hooker was. I think comparing Brandon to Nico is fair because they were both just highly touted recruits. You can compare where they are. They were both 5 stars. Comparing him to Hendon Hooker, even though they're both from North Carolina, is absolutely ridiculous to this point. What the H brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Setting up the poll question right now, because with Faizon Brandon coming in, that'll make for 3 quarterbacks in next year's competition after Joey Aguilar leaves. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up now with the poll question. Who is the future for Tennessee at quarterback after Joey Aguilar, assuming Joey Aguilar starts this year? Is it Jake Merklinger, George McIntyre, or Faizon Brandon? You guys go ahead and vote on that. Now, I agree with Derek. How many times did we compare Manning to Heath? None. We need to stop this comparison thing with Hendon. Well, Derek, to be fair, nobody would have compared Peyton Manning to Heath Shuler because they were totally different styles of quarterbacks. I mean, Faizon, some people are saying, has the quickness of a Hendon Hooker, and then obviously has the deep ball and the zip. So that's why you could see it a little more. Now, I would say that mobility is a big deal. I thought Nico would have had more mobility than he showed. Now, he took long strides, but it looks like quickness sometimes is more important for Heupel's system than just pure mobility and the long strides. Game No Bueno asked, how can you say Nico throws a better deep ball after we watched all last season? Game No Bueno, I got to point this out, and I'm going to say this with you. Nico Iamaleava was hamstrung last year with the receiving core at Tennessee. Josh Heupel never should have named Brew McCoy the number 1 go-to wideout. He did it out of affection for him as a senior for seniority purposes, but Brew McCoy had clearly lost a step, and him losing a step threw off the timing for the rest of the receiving core because you need that receiver to dictate coverage, and Nico didn't have that last year. That's a huge part of this system in the SEC. You don't need that when you're at UCF, but when you're in the SEC, you need a receiver that dictates coverage for this system to work. Old Brew McCoy did dictate coverage. Last year's Brew McCoy could not dictate coverage. He couldn't. He had just lost a step. That's why Nico looked like he overthrew the a lot of receivers, if we're going to be honest. So that's the issue there. Now, as far as Faizon Brandon goes, look, this is why I think Heupel wanted Joey Aguilar this year. I'm just going to be honest with you. This is why I think Heupel wanted Joey Aguilar. I think Heupel wanted an open competition with Faizon Brandon coming in next year between Brandon McIntyre and Jake Merklinger, George McIntyre. And I think that he didn't want to give anybody a leg up in that competition. Hence the reason he went for Joey Aguilar this year, because whoever would start otherwise would have that leg up. He doesn't want the leg up. He wants a pure open competition next spring to see who wins the job. And that's going to be exciting for Tennessee. I'll be honest. Next spring is going to be very exciting for Tennessee. And so let's be fair on that. And I have to say that I think that there's a lot of good that could come from that for Josh Heupel. I think McIntyre is going to win the job. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think Jake Merklinger is going to transfer out. He always had Merklinger as a placeholder. Merklinger's probably ahead of McIntyre right now. That's going to change by the end of this year. McIntyre will be more ready to go. I think once December comes, Faizon Brandon is going to arrive on campus. Merklinger is going to realize that dude is too good. It's going to be very clear that McIntyre has caught up to Merklinger and is going to surpass him. And then I think next year, McIntyre, with his experience, will win the job over Faizon Brandon. Faizon Brandon will take a red shirt. McIntyre will start 2 years. And then after 2027, McIntyre is going to go to the NFL. Faizon Brandon steps in 2028 as a redshirt sophomore, and he starts in 2028. That's how I think this is all going to play out. But we'll see. Things could change. We'll see how they go. There's a lot of ways this could play out, but I would say I think the hype behind Faizon Brandon is very intriguing.